It is now day 38, ladies and gentlemen, of our 1000 Dawns. And by the end of tonight, I've got something really interesting I want to share with you guys. Because we are now officially our first third of the way through the month of March. And I know this is a talking point you've probably heard me say a few dozen times before, but I'll say it again. People thinking that I'm somehow pointless and depressing to listen to. It's an absolute point of contention to know that, guess what? I said the exact same thing last week. But it's true. Time really does catch up on you. But that's also why, in reference to the video I released yesterday, when I talked about how, guess what? We are already are starting our long and intrepid march towards Las Vegas. It's going to be a bumpy ride, no doubt. But at the same time, it's going to be the one where if I succeed, then guess what? I'll count myself incredibly fortunate and lucky. If I fail, well, guess what? At least I'll go down trying. And God certainly does love a trier, but I also think God would also like a winner. And I think all of you guys would like a winner as well. Now, to be honest, let's talk a little bit about how my first proper shift at work went last night. It was all right. I think there were just a few things I needed to tightening up a few things here and there. But on the whole, I thought it was perfectly manageable for what it was. And it was but the point here, okay, well, here's the weak side of it, and I'll just say this for the record. Whilst I was certainly getting into the swing of things, and I certainly was getting a hand on things that needed to be done, and to be fair, the rest of the staff were incredibly helpful, patient, and a really good source for when I did need to ask a few things. And I felt that sort of assistance was going to be really, really beneficial. There's no doubt about that. One thing I will say, however, about the whole experience is that because of this self-imposed deadline I've put upon myself, at no point did I really feel myself like enjoying any of it. And listen, guys, an 8-hour shift from 10 p.m. till 6 in the morning. Let me tell you something. When you're not enjoying something, it feels like it goes on for a very, very long time. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves, why didn't I enjoy myself? Outside of, because there is another factor outside of this whole designated time frame that I've put upon myself, and it is because and this wasn't something that was lost on other members of staff when I was doing my training. They seemed to ask the question about whether I looked rather tense and rather a little bit either too focused, or too sort of like on the edge a little bit. Because whilst I will refute the idea that I just had, and it wasn't even one of those things where I had other things on my mind. There were, but it's not like I could afford to think about those things during my breaks and stuff like that. But the thing that really seemed to crop up is that whenever mistakes did happen, they seemed to almost see it immediately that I seemed to take it a little bit too personally when things did go wrong. To that they said that, well, think about it this way. This is your first night where you've pretty much done this on your own. And even the things that you've done so far, guess what? Think about it this way. Think about you couldn't even do any of these things when you started back in January. And here we are now, and to be honest, we entrust you with the thought that you could actually do some of the most basic ones all right, and sometimes maybe getting the most basic things right, as you said, you want to make sure you get the absolute basics right. Sometimes that's just a great place to start, because it demonstrates you have a responsibility enough, or to a capacity we look for, that says, guess what, you understand what you're doing and you're competent enough to do the most basic of things. And guess, because once we establish that, that means we can possibly get you to do slightly harder things at your own pace. I have mentioned it previously that I was going to go for the approach of being broken in rather gently. That's why I'm not considering the idea of moving on to 40 hours a week until at least I'm about maybe 3 months on the job, maybe 6, something like that. Because it's going to get really, really busy around Christmas time. So I think having an extra hands on deck isn't exactly a bad idea in theory. But I just want to see how this all plays out. And personally, I feel like there's going to come a conversation in the near future where somebody, a manager or whatnot, they might get the idea, and I'm half expecting to be to have like a small meeting behind closed doors, and one of the managers just to look me straight in the face and say, have you got a problem with the word help? It's perfectly fine to ask for help if that's what the problem is. And maybe in some ways, maybe I do have a problem with the word help. But whether that happens or not, we'll have to wait and see. But one thing is for certain, is that I am most certainly not going to fall at the first hurdle. Because guess what? There's 1,999 more hurdles to jump. And if tonight was anything to go by, guess what? How harder can the rest of those be in reality? So I'll see all of you guys again next time. Thank you.